Hi everybody, and welcome back to Lost Genre Reddit Stories. This post is from the subreddit Relationships, and it's by user Julie586. Me, 22 female, with my fellow student, 22 female, is trying to blackmail me into writing her thesis. I'm at my wit's end with this very effed up situation with my fellow student, Danielle. I will be a bit vague here because a lot of my friends use Reddit. So Danielle and I are in college and we're both working on our bachelor degrees. We started out as friends, but our relationship got a bit weird. She was often acting really entitled and like I had to cater to her every need. She would also scream at me often, especially when we were out partying. Because of that, I decided to not spend any more time with her around last Christmas. However, in the 2 years I was friends with her, she naturally learned a lot about me. Some of those things could definitely get me into legal trouble. I haven't talked to Danielle in a few months, but I heard that she is having trouble keeping up with her courses. Anyway, some weeks ago she showed up at my place, drunk, and told me that she expects me to write her thesis. It's a 50-page essay we have to hand in until July, and it will be crucial to finishing our degree. Or else she will tell everyone, including the police, about the stuff I did. And yes, she also has proof. I thought it was a stupid joke or that she was just super drunk until I came home yesterday and found a note from her saying the same exact thing and a USB stick with her working title and some ebooks I should include in my writing. Reddit, what do I do here? Write the damn thing for her? Don't and risk her going to the police? I can't really risk that though. She could get me in serious trouble. I have spoken to one friend of mine and he told me to write it, but write it badly. I don't know if that's such a good idea. Also, I still have to finish up my own thesis. I have no idea if I will even be able to write hers in time. Well, OP, the first thing I would ask you is, are you sure you could get in legal trouble for what she apparently has hanging over your head? And is it just you that would get in trouble, or would she get in trouble as well? Like, if this is something that she benefited from, then you can just call her bluff because it would be mutually assured destruction, right? I think it's kind of really difficult or basically impossible to give you proper advice without knowing what she has on you. So just for argument's sake, let's pretend it's not something that would put you in prison. For example, let's imagine that you indulged in some recreational activity of the chemical type. I'd say that unless you were the dealer, then nothing's gonna happen to you. And honestly, I don't know what else you could have done that she could be hanging over your head. Initially, I would say, don't do it. Never give in to blackmail. And that's as far as I can speculate without knowing what you did. So what do you guys think is going on here? Regardless of what OP did, and let's pretend that the premise that she won't go to prison for whatever she did still stands, what do you think OP should do here? Let me know in the comment section, and now let's move on to the community comments to see what they said. HawkGuy1126 says, talk to your professor immediately, and they will advise you on who to talk to next. It's possible that with the possibility of legal trouble for you, the professor may choose to act on an anonymous tip, kick her up the chain to disciplinary action, thereby getting her into trouble all by herself and saving you from being exposed. After all, as long as what you did wasn't plagiarism, a college disciplinary board won't be able to do anything to you. JRL5432 says, what you need now is legal help. She is trying to blackmail you and you need to know how to protect yourself. Call a lawyer as soon as possible to figure out what your options are and how you should approach the police and the university. This is above Reddit's pay grade, and you need advice from someone with expert knowledge of the laws in your area. Recta says, OP, you really do need to get some advice on how likely it is that you'll get into trouble for whatever illegal things you've done. All of the proposals here regarding the thesis are not going to deal with that part of things. You could write it for her, but if you got caught, both you and she would be expelled. If you get her expelled, do you think she's going to keep your secret? If you don't get caught, then she successfully blackmailed you. Do you think she won't pull that card again in the future? Same story with you purposefully writing a bad paper or using a plagiarized one. You may succeed in effing over this girl's academic career, but that's not going to prevent her from spilling your secret. If you turn her into the university for trying to blackmail you, again, what stops her from exposing you? Your university will likely take any accusations you make seriously, but they can't control what she does on her end. All of this comes back to the question of what you did, what proof she has, and how likely any legal authorities are to take her seriously. You need to concentrate on figuring that out before you decide what you want to do about the thesis. And for the record, I don't think you should write it for her. It's not going to solve your actual issue, and it's unethical as hell. I really doubt that whatever crimes you've committed are so serious that law enforcement is going to act on whatever nebulous proof this girl has. But maybe I'm underestimating you. But if you have committed a crime that serious, then you need some legal advice regardless of this particular situation. Why did you give concrete proof of serious criminal activity to a friend that you don't know all that well in the first place? OP's edit. I was hoping I didn't have to say what I did, but here goes. I had a short fling with one of the assistant professors. He didn't know I was a student there though. It was a complicated situation. Anyway, I got my hands on some exam sheets and sent them to several friends, including Danielle. So her proof is that email with the attachment. It's pretty solid proof. I sent it from my spam email address that I normally don't use, which doesn't have my name on it, but I'm sure they could backtrack it with an IP address and so on. There is no way I will come clean to the university, as I will probably get expelled. I should also add that in the note I got from her, she is explicitly accusing me of that, with the name of the course and date of the exam, so I am very reluctant to show it to anyone. Alright, well, OP got some pretty decent advice, I would say particularly from that third and last commenter, and OP's edit telling us what she did is something that's definitely not going to put her in prison. Maybe she gets expelled, which of course sucks, but it's not life-ending. Also, Danielle apparently received a copy of the test and she might have benefited from it, which, like I said before, would be mutually assured destruction, so that's pretty stupid from Danielle. I still say OP shouldn't do it. Anyways, let's move on to the first update out of 2 to see what happened next. Hi everyone, and thanks so much for all your great advice in my original post. First off, I wanted to clarify something because there seems to be a misunderstanding regarding my edit in the original post. The exam sheets I sent to my friends were of a completely unrelated course and we didn't actually use them, so there was no cheating involved or something. Here's what happened, and I'm aware that this makes me look super stupid. I met a guy, let's call him Tom, at the place where I work part-time. He asked me out on a date and we had 3 dates as a whole. He obviously thought I worked full-time at that place we met. He, on the other hand, told me that he was a researcher. Maybe because it sounds more exciting than being a professor at 28, or maybe he's both. I know it might sound unbelievable that my being a student never came up, but we both had traveled a bit and mainly talked about that. After 3 dates, I slept at his place for the first time, and when he went to buy breakfast in the morning, I looked around a bit in his apartment and there were some exam sheets on his desk. There was one with the answer key and then some exams that were already taken by students, so he was correcting those tests. I texted a friend of mine, not Danielle. Oh crap, I think he's a professor. Friend texts back, no way, he's too young. Proof? She had seen pictures of him. I then took a picture of the answer sheet and sent an email to 4 friends of mine, including Danielle, writing something really douchey along the lines of, "This is how you get yourself through college," or something. It was supposed to be funny, but I cringed typing that. I realize now that I was actually super lucky because I lost my iPhone that week and had to use an old phone of mine without WhatsApp, where the email app was not linked to my college email address, so that's why I didn't just send the picture via app but had to send it over email with my old spam email address. I hadn't used that address in at least 5 years, and that was the only time I used it because the next day I got my iPhone back. Also, just as a side note, when Tom came back from getting breakfast, I said I had to go because I had classes. He looked pretty shocked, and then I told him I only work at my workplace part-time and I'm also a student. He just said goodbye, and that's the last I ever saw or heard of him. So we never contacted each other again. I later found him on the university website's homepage. He is indeed a professor, but for a completely different course. Like if I would study communications and he would teach microbiology. I hope this makes him look like less of a predator, as some commenters have called him. So the thing Danielle has on me is actually not cheating on a test, but sleeping with a professor and taking pictures of exam sheets, even though completely unrelated to my courses, as proof of being at his place, presumably sleeping with him. Now that I think of it though, she doesn't really have evidence on that. The picture I took only shows the piece of paper on a wooden desk. I could have found it on campus or something. She also knows of smoking weed, but as many of you have pointed out, that it's not something the police would be interested in. Anyway, I read through all your comments. Some of you said that she would incriminate herself by outing me because she cheated on an exam. Well, that wouldn't be the case, but everyone seems to agree that IP address tracking doesn't work the way I imagined, so she doesn't really have anything on me, right? I still don't really want to go to the police, especially because of Tom, because he's a genuinely nice guy. I actually thought about contacting him after I finished my degree, but don't know if that's a good idea. I'm still afraid if Danielle went to the college or police just saying that a professor was sleeping with a student, they wouldn't even need any evidence and still launch an investigation because it's such a touchy subject. So I'm not sure about that. I think the best course of action would be to write Danielle something like this. Hello Danielle, unfortunately I have no idea what you're talking about. I have never sent out any exam answers, but what you are doing sounds a lot like blackmail, which is illegal to my knowledge. For the sake of our old friendship, I will not directly go to the police for now, as I'm suspecting you didn't really mean what you said in your note. I heard that tutor is great at helping students get started with their thesis, and I'm sure he can help you. What do you think? Or just ignore it? I also talked to the other 3 girls involved and they all deleted the email, and as they're not in contact with Danielle either, I don't think I need to worry about them. Okay, so now we definitely got more information, and OP, the one thing I have to say is Danielle has nothing on you. My reasoning for this is that you mentioned that you sent a key and exam to some exams that were already being graded, which means the exam had been taken. So unless somebody had a time machine, then what you sent out is absolutely irrelevant because it's outdated information anyways. Regardless, let's move on to the final update to see what OP ended up doing and how this story ends. Short update. Okay, seems like I actually did nothing wrong, or at least nothing illegal. I'm not going to reply to Danielle, and I'm heading over to her professor in an hour to tell him about the blackmail. Then maybe take it to the dean. Still unsure if I should give Tom a heads up, but I think I'm just gonna leave him out of this. Also, I haven't seen him in months, so not sure how he would react. Final update. So I just came back from the professor, Danielle's thesis advisor. I told him I was being blackmailed by Danielle to write her thesis because of a short relationship with a professor from another department. I looked it up. As long as the professor doesn't have to grade you, it's actually okay. He said something along the lines of, "That's interesting because she already missed the first deadline," or something like that. I had planned to go to the dean, but he then took me to the department head instead and explained the problem to him, but he left out the part with the blackmail. He just said, "This student was asked to write another student's thesis." He was also really angry about the whole thing. Later I was alone with the department head and he asked why she would think I would write the thesis for her, and I told him the thing I told the professor about the blackmail. Now, the department head actually asked me who I had this relationship with, and I said I wasn't comfortable saying, but he was from another department altogether and that was it. I left the USB with them, so I don't really have anything to go to the police with, but they said they would take matters into their own hands now, and I shouldn't worry about it anymore. And when I asked if I should go to the police, they said no. I don't know. I then went to Tom's office. I was super nervous about talking to him, but I just wanted to let him know in case Danielle said anything crazy. So I got there and he was pretty surprised to see me, and I kinda told him the whole thing. I didn't mention the pictures though, and he reacted pretty okay. He told me he was sorry he never called again, but when I said I was a student, he kinda panicked and deleted all our texts and my number, and then he talked to his head of department, who told him it's actually no big deal, but then he had already deleted my number. Then I asked him if he wanted my number again, and he said he has a girlfriend now. So that was pretty embarrassing, but I kinda laughed it off, and here we are. I blocked Danielle, by the way. And that's it. I know many of you would want to know what happened to Danielle. I want to think she got expelled, but unfortunately OP never posted anything else regarding this and I couldn't find anything anywhere else. So my apologies for that part. As for the rest, I think OP kind of blew this out of proportion and just went straight to Reddit asking for something she should have researched before to know that Danielle had nothing on her. So hopefully she did learn something about due diligence. In any case, OP, thank you so much for sharing and all the best in the future. Take care. Now, let's move on to the next post. This post is from the subreddit Malicious Compliance, and it's by user Sriver. Boiler room office space. This happened in former Yugoslavia in the 80s. It was still a communist country, but by then they started allowing for some privately owned companies limited in size. My brother was working for one such company which made high-end custom air conditioning systems. That's how I know about this story. As this was a novel concept at the time, office space was almost non-existent. You had these huge state-owned companies who had their own buildings with everything they needed, including office space, and outside of that, there was never need and nothing built with that in mind, so you really needed to think outside of the box for this one. And this brings us neatly to the second peculiarity of life in former Yugoslavia: apartment buildings. To keep this short, at some point before, a whole bunch of them were made, basically, a whole new part of the city, and all of them had this huge space on the ground floor or first floor that was planned to be a boiler room, which was later abandoned in favor of one big heating plant to which all the buildings in that area were connected to. As you can see where this is going, the owner of the fledgling company approached the apartment building representatives and asked them to rent the space intended for the non-existing heating system. Now, these guys in this particular building were retired military officers, so a little bit arrogant and not big on asking questions. They had no idea what was going on other than some guy was willing to give them money to rent part of the building that was never used. Not much money, but basically free money for them. So they signed a standard renting contract, which is very important for later. The owner converted the boiler room into a 2-floor office with all facilities, and that was that for a while. One point about this guy is he didn't like to rent, so after a while when the business started to pick up, he started building a new factory that included the much needed office space. When this was finished and he was ready to move, he again approached the apartment building representatives with a proposal to pay him for some of the costs of the remodeling he did. As they could now rent it for way higher prices, office space was by then in high demand, and for what he was asking they would be in the clear in less than a year, and after that, profit. But as I said, former military officers, a bit arrogant, used to get their way, they thought about it and said no. You are moving out and we are gonna get that anyways and for free. The owner said, okay, no problem. The owner gathered around all of his employees and told them that anything they needed from the former office to feel free to take it. Electric plugs, toilet bowls, doors, anything that could be dismantled could be taken. After that, he brought a small excavator, drove it in and started tearing the place clean. By then, the building representatives are running and screaming bloody murder, threatening to call the police, militia by then, legal actions, everything and anything. The owner calmly takes out the standard renting contract with highlighted premises to be returned to the original state after renting period. Now, there is something poetic about a bunch of entitled arrogant bastards being screwed and knowing they can't do anything about it. My brother says it was glorious. I wish I was there to see it. Also, I'm happy to say that that company managed to survive the Balkan Wars of the 90s and is still going strong to this day. Big smiley face. Fantastic, OP. I couldn't have said it better myself. Poetic to see a bunch of entitled arrogant bastards being screwed and knowing they can't do anything about it. Thank you so much for sharing, OP. Take care. And it's that time that we've reached the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed today's stories. I really did enjoy reading them to you. So if you did, then don't be shy and go ahead and give the video a like. And don't forget to subscribe or even share this video with people that you might think will enjoy my storytelling. Also, if you have the time, go down to the video description and check out all the links I have for you, from our Discord community to my channel merch. And finally, I'd like to say thank you for watching. It really means a lot to me that you enjoy my videos. And having said all that, I'll see you guys in the next video.